Get my machine up. Welcome to Roseneath. And the lovely weather we're having out there. It's bright, but it's cool if you get in that wind. Thank you for coming. I'll call this special meeting of council together at 9:30. And today we're going to be discussing the draft budget for 2025. All members of council are present, as well as our municipal clerk. I'll read the territorial land acknowledgement. We respectively acknowledge the township of Alma-Culloden is located on the Mississauga-Neshinimbic territory and is the traditional territory of the Mississauga-Neshinimbic. The township of Alma-Culloden respectively acknowledges that the Mississauga Nation are the collective stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for generations to come. Moving on to approval of the agenda. It is recommended the council corporation of the township of Alma-Culloden enact as follows: that the agenda for the special meeting held on January 27th, 2025 be approved. And we have one amendment and one slight change. We're going to let Adam Taggart from the Water Committee make his presentation first. And then after that, we'll be going to, I understand the library board is here and they would like to make a short presentation about the changes in their budget. Okay, I get a mover and a seconder for those with addendums. Moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Councillor O'Neill. All in favor? The motion is carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Mayor will write a declaration here, and it has to do with the library portion of the budget today, and it has to do with litigation with the library board. I'll pass those on to Madam Clerk at this time. Thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor O'Neill.
Again, if we are addressing the 4-H within the grants portion, I am a 4-H leader.
So you'd like to declare something?
Yes,
Okay.
With regard to that item.
Okay, thank you. Those will both be duly noted. Next, we have approval of the minutes and business arising from previous meeting. And there are no items there. Next item is 6.1, grass cutting cost comparison. And it's PR 202503, grass cutting cost comparison. And I believe Jeremy has put that together. Jeremy, do you have any updates on that? Thank you. Any questions from comments from council regarding this report? Go ahead, Councillor Booth.
Through your worship, to Jeremy, I just don't have it up here, but I did have a quick question for you, Jeremy. Is this the costs in here? Are they talking about any of the capital costs too for the equipment? For example, I didn't see anything about the actual grass cutters, which I know are commercial ones, right?
That's correct with the commercial equipment. The cost is broken down and added into one of the tabs as a per cut cost, not the actual overall expenditure of the individual items themselves. The equipment was broken out as a per cut cost.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the report? I did. Need a mover and a seconder, sorry. Moved by Councillor O'Neill, second by Deputy Mayor Stover. Further discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Next report is PW 2025 asset management update. Dave, are you going to answer any questions from that report?
Through your mayor, the report was given by Sue, who is our asset management coordinator. If council would like to see something of different detail, then please provide that direction and we will.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from council members? Councillor O'Neill?
I'm just looking at what are our next steps as council on this file.
Go ahead, CAO.
So again, if council would like something different or Sue to come and prepare a presentation to update council as our asset manager, then I'd be happy to see if that can happen.
Okay. Councillor O'Neill.
I did go back and attempt to see when the consultant presented to council, when that report came in June of 2022, and I did not see that the consultant had come at that time. So I'm wondering if that's something, either it was on a different day than the day we received the report, or council, the previous council received the report, or if that's an option for us to have the consultant come and go through what work they had done.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. I'd like to make a quick comment. I think that would be appropriate. And I also would like to see some additional information to bring us up to date where we are now, so that we are confident that we will be able to move ahead and beat our July 2025 requirements. CAO? You have a comment?
Through your mayor, so the asset management review is part of the review that you've already approved for Public Works, which is being done by Dave Anderson.
That's part of it, yep. Go ahead.
That's great. That's the second part of what Mayor Logo was addressing, but the original is to give us, because we weren't part of the original. So the report that came from, and I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of Infrastructure Solutions. If we could have the consultants from Infrastructure Solutions come and present to us.
CAO?
Yeah, through your mayor to council. So staff would have to review what the arrangements were with respect to the contract at that time. Then we'd have to identify what the cost would be for them to come and present and or to review the files. So my understanding, something like that would be a done deal. But again, we would have to review the agreement with the clerk. And we could bring those findings back to council and you can decide if you want to spend the money.
Okay. In the meantime, I would suggest that, is Susan prepared to, can Susan present that to us? As a CA, or pardon me, as an asset manager?
Again, Mayor, I have already made that recommendation that if you wish, I can ask Sue to put something together.
Thank you.
And speak to our Public Works manager about that and bring something forward.
Thank you. Can I get a mover to do that then, please? Councillor Booth, seconder. Yes, yes, can we get a seconder? Okay. Motion is that staff, the asset manager staff, make a report to council with the initial presentation by Infrastructure Solutions. And the second part of that is that they update us to where we are today. And the process of being prepared for the July 25th, 2025. Pardon me, it's not the 25th, I believe it's July 1st. So that we're in shape to do that, to meet that need. And Mike, you'll second that?
Yes.
Was moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. And further discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. And there was also another motion on the suggested by Councillor O'Neill that we check and investigate after we receive the report to see whether we want to continue on with the presentation from Infrastructure Solutions.
You did include that in what we just did, so staff will bring that back as well. Already.
I don't recall saying. Perfect. So we got an all in favor of that, and we also need approval that the council receive the report dated January 27th, 2025 for information. Mover and seconder. Moved by Counselor Ainsworth, seconded by Counselor Booth. Further discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Next, we're going to move on to the draft 2025 budget package. And the first motion that we're going to talk about is the deferred motion RES 2024-1216. Okay, we're gonna wait for that until it comes up in the appropriate time. We can. Just for council's information, Dave will be providing an update to the budget since our last meeting on December 16th, I believe it was. And I will make a couple other comments. Today's meeting will be finished at 4:30. And hopefully by the end of the day, we are getting close to the completion of this budget. And that's it. Go ahead, CAO.
So, Mayor, I believe that you were going to call Adam Taggart to do the water one first,
Well,
prior to the presentation.
that's what I had planned to, but
That's what we had discussed. Yeah,
okay.
so that Adam can leave.
Yep.
Okay.
And we'll do the library right after that then too.
That's what I heard at the beginning of the meeting.
Yeah. Adam.
Morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
Feel like a thorn between two roses.
You don't look like that.
Thank you. It's good to be appreciated. It is truly in the eye of the beholder, apparently then. To begin, we have a 2025, this is the water services budget. Now the budget items is split into two components. You have a total revenue budgeted about $3.2 million, just shy of $3.2 million. The points that I'm going to really draw your attention to here, largely your water services budget is broken down into two components. You have your operating expenses and your capital. The operating expenses, that component is arrived at through consultation with staff. As part of his duties under Section 19 of the Safe Drinking Water Act. As qualified professionals, we provided advice for ANH's staff to set the water operations budget. The major changes that I would quickly identify here that would jump out at us is we've seen an increase in internet costs. It's doubled because of the nature of the internet. We've provided a more stable internet provider. We've gone to fiber, which better communications, but it's more expensive naturally. Setting at about $3,000. Pump house maintenance continues to be set at around $62,000. Even though you're seeing your 2024 actuals are relatively low, in the event that there is a serious failure, you'll see us quickly reach that budget. We don't reach it every year, that budget item, but I wanted to draw your attention to that. The other item that is here that I really want to draw your attention to, a lot of these, especially the ones that are denoted LC, would be Lucy contract, and the budgeted items correspond to the Lakefront Utilities ANH contract for operations. So they are drawn straight from the contract with the cost corrections year to year. The second page here on page 114, the second item that I would draw your attention to is retrim of pressure reducing valves. We did not do that, nor did we need to this year, but it's an item because there are different pressure zones within your system. And because the Grafton drinking water system is on the side of a hill, we have valves in the system that step down the pressure so that you don't have extremely high 220 pounds per square inch pressures down in areas like Canning Factory Road. So we have pressure zones. They're controlled by pressure reducing valves, and they need periodic service. That item will recur this year. It was not used last year. There's nothing really out of the ordinary there. But the thing that I would draw your attention to is the capital budget, which is the bulk of what my more direct suggestions are. There are some miscellaneous small items there that we've arrived at just from consultation. The new well is the bulk of your capital works. And in 2025, you will see the bulk of the costs arrives for the new well. I do not think that your new well cost will be as high as the initial, but as the initial estimations. However, we have a long way to go before that well it's drilled, but it certainly doesn't have any mechanical, any electrical. It hasn't been placed in service. So the bulk of that work will be completed in 2025, and you'll see a portion of that, those funds remitted through the ICIP grant system and then returned. The pump house roof, it's not going to be an item because we completed it at the end of the year. We do have a new item that's $70,000 for master plan. So when I came to the system here, I found that we had rates, that we were looking at a water model to tell us what was going on in the system and how it would operate with expansion. But we did not have a master plan in terms of where we might be going for the water system with development, capital renewal, replacements of aging infrastructure. It was made as a fairly new system that was built in the 90s on an ad hoc, ad needed basis. You know, Grafton wasn't growing at a fantastic rate. Capacity wasn't an issue in any particular area. The infrastructure that was in the ground was 25, 30 years old. We're reaching a point now in the system where we should start to look at some of those items being replaced. Particularly, you've been seeing them in an ad hoc basis with analyzers and electronics. We've done some repairs within the pump house. The raw header, we did a replacement because it wore out from contact with chlorine. We're reaching a point that your drinking water system now, instead of us managing a fairly new system, that's essentially, it's like having a new car that's still, it's not on bumper to bumper warranty, but it's still on powertrain warranty. And we were kind of filling in those pieces. The time has come now with Grafton and its forecast expansion and the age of the infrastructure you have. My recommendation in your system is to move to a more formalized process that will identify, as asset management has been coming online as well with the township, what you have, where development is going to take it. You know exactly what the water model is for all of those sizes, to dovetail with your rate study. And part of this money is for a rate study update, so that you have, what needs to be replaced, what needs to be expanded out over a 10-year timeline with forecast costs that matches to your rates, so that you have future sustainable growth and management of the water system that's run by people who do this for a living. I would engage not only an engineering firm to do the master plan component, but the funding component would be a financial organization. The one that comes to me off the top of my head is CM Watson, who does the other ones in the area. So you get an idea of, we have professionals planning how the infrastructure gets expanded and maintained, and how the money is there to ensure that that happens, so that you can make an informed decision. That's my pitch for that particular item. And I would, in very strong terms, any council that I go in front of who does not have one of these systems, I recommend in the strongest terms. The last item that I've really got to draw your attention to, the last two, the high lift header in the pump house. We had some work on the low lift header previous years. The high lift header is a challenge. We certainly have had an isolation valve fail that prevented me from doing the replacement on the fire pump discharge valve because I was unable to isolate it. I'll have to do some work there, installing an insertion valve to be able to accomplish that replacement without shutting down the water system for the town. As well as some other basic maintenance items. As stainless steel ages in contact with chlorine, it starts to become thinner, it starts to degrade. We've put that in as $100,000 item. We're hoping to not only install that, but perhaps a bypass system that allows some versatility, that we can shut half of your high lift system off and operate the town off the other half, so that we're not always in a position where you have no redundancy. The last item that we have here is a well and low lift inspection. So every 5 years in your drinking water quality management system, you're slated to have well inspections and pump inspections happen. They camera the well, they bring the pump out and look. We've scheduled it for 2025 because it's the 5-year interval, but also we'll try to do it at the very end of the year so that your new well is online and functioning while we pull out and take a look at what's going on with your old well. We've put a little bit of money in there as well in case we need to replace some cabling on a pump or there's something minor, but we have no expectation that there will be a major defect in the well. Until we do the inspection, we won't know for sure. And that in a nutshell is what we're looking at for a budget for the water system.
Anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Councilor Booth.
Through you, your worship, just 3. 2 are probably more towards Aaron, and it's the revenues. Little concerned where it shows the water resident customer that we budgeted, we were gonna get 343,000 and we're sitting at 93,000. So we're 200 and something thousand less. And the bulk water customer where we were guessing we were gonna get 40, almost 45,000 and we're sitting at 8. Is that just because Aaron bills aren't in, or?
That is correct. So I don't know if you're aware, but Lucy had a full transition in their finance. So we are still waiting for some revenues to come in as well as some billing to come in from Lucy. After some discussion with Adam and where we would end up with water billing, the rates for 2024 were based off the water rate study. Unfortunately, we are not hitting those revenues. So again, we're being very conservative with our revenue side, and you'll see that throughout our entire budget that we've looked at revenues and being more reserved with them because we are not hitting those target amounts.
So I guess a second question to that then is, so for example, the residential customers, like we're 200 and something thousand dollars shy, is that 93,000 going to increase big time with the numbers coming from Lucy, or are we talking a few more thousand? Because even to say we're going to have 300,000, that's $200,000 off of this year.
Adam, do you want to answer
Through
that?
the chair, I suspect that our remittances are significantly behind. And I was under the understanding with my finance department that they would rectify that prior to this meeting. And they haven't, which hamstrings the council to have an accurate reflection of what your revenues will be. I suspect that revenues will not grow within the water system from 2024 to 2025. Would be my forecast.
So you're saying the 93,000's accurate or not accurate?
I would say that it's not accurate, but I would expect the 2023 revenues, which is I'll ask Aaron to assist right there. I would expect that the 2024 revenues would be in the neighborhood of about $280,000.
Okay.
So it's going to be short of what the budget forecast was, but it's certainly not 93. Unfortunately, our remittances have it's embarrassing. My apologies.
So Aaron, would that be something you could bring back to us? And I don't know, it might even be a month from now or 2 months from now that you can come back and just confirm what those numbers were.
Can you tell us what,
Yeah.
Greg, can you tell us what 2023 was actual?
I'm a little slower because of where we are, so it takes me a little bit to get into the finance system.
And
Following this meeting, I will have a very short and succinct conversation with my head of finance to ensure that you have those accurate numbers and remittances in hand.
As
In
well
a
as,
very timely fashion going forward.
as well as the bulk ones as well?
Yes, sir.
okay, and just one other one, and this one's probably more for you, Adam. Under the capital expenses, when you say miscellaneous water, $30,000 is a big chunk for miscellaneous. So what exactly would that include? Because we had 23.5 last year, didn't spend anything. So is that,
So again, those billings haven't hit the account yet. They haven't been billed back to A&H by my finance department. The expenditures for capital for last year, a chlorine analyzer, the miscellaneous, along with some other items, some flow coating of hydrants and stuff like that. The money has been spent. In 2025, the forecast is to do flow coating on hydrants so that A&H is back in a program in Grafton of having NFPA 291 is the test hydrants, how much water flows out of it, a specific pressure, and then you coat the top of the hydrant with a color so that when the fire department looks onto a hydrant, you know how much water's there. That had not been done in the past. And so we have set out that we're going to get on a 5-year rotation and do this as it's supposed to be done. Part of those funds go there. We're looking at another chlorine analyzer, doing some hydrant painting as well while we're testing them and we're painting bonnets. They are a perishable item and the hydrants in the system don't have adequate coatings. They're not painted, and when you don't paint them, they rust, salt, reduced operation, reduced life cycle. So we're trying to care for those things. We put about $1,000 worth of tools in because we have our operators bringing a lot of tools from other systems. And we think it would be wise for us to have them right there and reduce a little bit of travel time that ends up billed out at late hours to A&H as overtime. And we've built a shed for storage for some of your distribution parts that's unheated and stuff like that. And add a shelving system so that those parts can be warehoused in a logical manner. That is the bulk of the miscellaneous.
okay, so would it be possible then, Aaron, when you're giving us the revenues from the residential and bulk, that you can include an email what the actual expenditures were for 2024 for the miscellaneous? Because Adam's saying there was. And in that line, could you explain what it was in 2024? What not just to give me a number to say it was 18,000, what did they spend in 2024 on what?
And through the chair, to be fair, we received a capital budget for the water system sometime in October of 2024. And we managed to complete all but one of those items, including a roof, before the end of year. But billings coming out with that, we've done about a 60-day turnaround, and the bills will come in due course. I would imagine some of them we haven't been billed from third parties yet, or the bills have just landed because of the tight timeline that we had.
If I can, Adam, so are you talking capital or are you talking just all in general?
So 2024 capital,
Yeah.
We did that all in a window between the middle of October and now because of that delay. My remittances for your water system for billing and stuff like that, they are incredibly behind because of our finance department, and we'll get those rectified for you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Greg. I have some comments. Adam, I think we have roughly $360,000 in capital, in reserves. And I could be out $10,000 or $20,000 there, whatever. That was accumulated over the last, since the system was going and everything was going hunky-dory until we drilled that well. And I expect a lot of that capital that we had is no longer available. And have we got can somebody tell me if we've got enough capital in there, pardon me, in reserves after we pay for the well to do this, $200,000 worth of capital work?
I suppose while Aaron's searching for that, the other ancillary benefit of conducting a water study, a master plan and a rate study is that you'll never have to ask this question again.
Good.
So in 2024, we did budget to move half of those reserves. But at this time, because the well was not as far gone as it should have been in the process, that we will not be, should not have to move that money over until 2025. And as it stands right now, we're just under 400,000 with interest and stuff going through as well. So it has been able to build up because we haven't moved that money out yet.
Okay. But you still didn't say whether we'd have enough to spend that, or can you comment on that?
At this time, it has been put into the 2025 budget so that it is able to cover those costs.
These costs. And the well too.
Yes.
Adam, thank you very much. One other comment that I will make, I got you, Deputy Mayor, is Infrastructure Solutions over the years have put a plan together, and I think it was up till 2096 or something like that, which is, pie in the sky. And I don't know if it was done by the people that you're talking about. I think it was done more by engineers, or the type of engineers that are, just making possibilities and this, that, and the other type thing. So I think that what you're going to do is great for us, and I think it's a long time coming. Thank you. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Through your Mayor Lobo, to Adam, thank you so much for your presentation. A few things that I've been asked, wondering about are all covered in there. And I just wanted to remind, maybe mention to you, February 10th is our next budget meeting. And be nice to have those numbers then, but I understand the situation.
You'll have those numbers then.
Thank you.
And I guess if I could ask one more question, you mentioned doing the study to see what our rates are as compared to could that be done?
As soon as the budget is passed, Mayor, I would start working with township staff to look at tenders for a rate study and for a master plan. So we would get them out. Typically, your system isn't as complex as other systems that we've run in. So the infrastructure component should be reasonably simple. And the rate study component, it's doable by fall, certainly, to have all of it completed, I would think, certainly by year end.
Okay.
So I hope to have all of this work done in time for you to set water rates for the system prior to 2026.
Thank you.
Mayor Gallagher?
Thanks, Adam. Just with the grant that, we've said we're not going to get it done. Is there any timeline that the work must be complete by in order to maintain that grant?
Yes, it's different for every grant and for every grant dispensation. ICIP, if I'm correct, yes, 2026. So the work will certainly be completed on your well. I would forecast, most recent forecast I've gotten from Greer Galloway is summer 2025. I'm going to start working with the township very shortly as the township starts spending money. We found a contact in Ministry of Infrastructure who will expedite redemption for small systems, meaning that instead of them setting on the repayment for 8 to 12 weeks, once the application occurs, he will walk the application through approval and dispensation back to the township. Just completed one for the town of Cobourg, and from the time it hit his desk until the money hit our account, it was less than 48 hours. So we'll start looking at making regular submissions to improve the cash flow situation for the water system and for ANH.
Adam, thank you very much for your presentation. I think you helped us out a lot. Look forward to you coming to a council meeting and updating this, hopefully in the first quarter.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity to operate your system. We're proud to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. And you might as well make a copy of this quickly too, so we have an update.
I'll let Tricia say. Thank you, Dave.
That's okay, you can come up too.
Sorry. All right.
Good morning. You're welcome. I understand you have a little bit of an update to provide for us, and we appreciate you coming to tell us.
Minor, very minor updates.
Yeah, so we
The microphone?
here.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you for the opportunity. Secondly, we have some minor updates on what was submitted, and a huge thank you to Aaron for the stuff that she passed along. In the last meeting we were at, we talked about the budget itself and how this works out. We want to make it clear, based on what we got and what we see in place, that about 90% of this budget as presented is really outside of our control. With about 84% of this, 85% of the cost being tied to salaries and benefits. Overall, as Tricia noted in the last meeting, the grant from the province hasn't changed in about 35 years. We're building 16,751. In the budget package that I looked at online, there's a couple of minor errors, so we'll get that to Aaron to have some of those numbers corrected. We want to also pick up Councillor Ainsworth on his suggestion that there be better communication and start coming to these on a quarterly basis, so that the board was fully supportive of that. And we'd like to point out as well that for this particular budget, in any case, sorry, the operating expenses are scheduled to drop between 5 and 7% for 2025. Some of those are expenses that we had budgeted for. I want to be clear, it's a budget. We've reduced some of that from previous years, and it's a fairly tight, fairly lean budget. We do have a couple of questions with allocations of costs. I will point out one thing, and I'm sure Erin and her team and everybody else is aware of this. Our insurance costs, as shown, have jumped from $5,700 in 2023 to $9,000 in 2024 to a projected $11,000 in 2025. Just doubling in 2 years. I'm not sure why or how that works.
Can I ask a question? Do you have your own insurance, or are you going through the township?
We are allocated a cost through the township.
To the township, okay.
That's one of the big ones that, again, it's not controllable. We feel as we are developing a memorandum of understanding too, that we should be taking better advantage, if I can use that word, of the cooperation with council to shrink some of those costs as well. That number is a big one for us to take a look at this. And I know that there was some discussion last year on the insurance costs. I know it's not controllable for council. You kind of have to do what the broker's sending you along, but to go from 5,700 to 11,000 in 2 years is seems that they're like. Beyond that, I think that, you know, the reduction I think will help. We are being careful with our money as allocated, and we're doing everything that we can to continue the fundraise. So the changes to the budget are de minimis, really, not more corrections than anything. And again, recognizing the time crunch that Erin has been under, grateful for everything that she sent to us, and there will be hopefully a couple more discussions on that from a detail point of view. But overall, I think it's good news, and Trisha's done great work on putting this together, and again, the devil is in the details, and when we look at these things, we have, as a board, said we need to come and talk to council about this. That would be it.
Would you like me to talk about the minor variances in the budget? They're very minor. I think it's a $4,500 difference. The one was in the training line. It was at 2,000, and the library board has requested that we up it to 3,500. And that is because I was accepted into a program for advanced public library leadership through the Ontario Library Service. So it's a 2-year program, which most of it is online, and it's $2,000 a year plus HST, I believe. So we did budget $2,000, but at our library board meeting, it was brought up that we needed extra for other staff to do potential training. So that's why we're requesting that go from 2,000 to 3,500. The other difference was, what was the other difference? Oh, we already talked about the phone line.
Yeah.
The $3,000 was not included in the budget, township budget package.
So have you passed this information on to Erin?
Not yet.
Okay. But she needs that in order to complete, so we appreciate if you could do that as quickly as possible. And I want to thank you both for coming. So you have a question, your accountant?
I do. It's a follow-up to the previous meeting. I see you have nothing going into reserves, and that is a concern to me, given the state of the Grafton Library. So perhaps it's the same comment just made again.
We did talk about that.
Yeah, we did have discussion on that, where I think one of the things that we were looking at is figuring out A, how much, B, how do we work with council to make sure that, you know, we get to the right number. There will be a little more discussion on that. It may not fall into this budget, but we would certainly keep council apprised of our discussions and where we think that's going to go. We agree that the egress, if you will, egress and accessibility needs to be looked at. It's not something that is really within our expertise, so we just want to talk about how we talk to council about doing this.
Thank you. You have a follow-up?
Just a comment that, you know, when we look back at the success of the project on Centerton, which is that beautiful facility, but that was fully led by the library board. And so there is, you know, a lot of history there that can be tapped into.
Appreciate that. There was just one other item that I wanted to note, and this goes back to the insurance, not to be picking on that. We have in our budget a separate line for library insurance. That's the one that's about 11,000. Within the township expenses, there is also a line for insurance that gets charged back. So I'm not sure if we are, I'm not sure if that's additional or they should be married together. That's something that we'd like to talk to Erin and the folks in finance about. We have the breakdown, but for the interim, I think the budget in and of itself is a decent one with that reduction, about 5%.
Thank you. Mike, do you have something you want to mention?
Yes, through you, Mayor. A couple, because actually you brought the township expenses up, and I wondered if that was an additional on top of the levy. So, yeah, the 36,000
As far as I know, it's part of the levy.
part of it.
Yeah, it's all included in there. It's broken out because there are the expenses are grounds, building maintenance, heating, fuel, hydro, insurance, water tests, fire inspections, cleaning supplies, and then there's the administrative, where we're charged back for HR services, accounting / payroll and audit services. So I believe, now, this is my belief, we can check, it's part of that entire levy.
Mhm.
When I check the financial statements, sorry, I'm gonna go off on a different segue, and I don't want to, it's part of the, sorry, I believe it's part of the levy.
Okay,
Mayor,
yes.
just one other thing too, is that, so the white elephant in the room here all the time with the libraries, why our deputy mayor's not here, is that cost for that litigation hid in there somewhere?
Ken, can you have a comment on that?
So. Oh, nice that. So yes, we have it under consultant fees. Last year, we budgeted 35,000. We were able to stay away from that. I mean, I think we ended up with, please excuse me while I just look again. Just short of just over 6,000. We budgeted 7,500 this year for that. And am I allowed to express a personal opinion?
I'm just talking with just asking the clerk whether we should be even discussing this in open session. The budget is open and we can talk about that, but any litigation that should not be discussed.
That's fine then. We hope that we'll look at, we've made we've made a budget for it, and we have a budget line item. We'll just take up the details and come back to council and ask for a closed session where we can discuss the resolution.
Thank you. You have a final one, Mike?
One final one is the agreement that we've talked about with council and staff. I'd like to know how that's coming along, and if there's like a date we can say, like a hard date where we'd have something like that coming to us.
You want to answer that?
You can.
We have a scheduled date to run through a draft memorandum of understanding with the board. Not everybody understood what that should entail, so we have a date just completely out of my brain now, in January to discuss as a board, and then to come back to council to say, here's our draft and who can we work with to get that in place.
Okay.
It is probably next to raising sort of the card count. It's probably our second biggest priority, just to get that in place and under control.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you both, Trish and
Thank
Ken, for being here. We appreciate your update.
Thank you.
Okay, so I believe Dave is going to take us through the budget and highlight any changes that that we've come across. And I believe it's in, I'm not sure what page you're going to, Dave, but please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, and through you to council. So what I wanted to do was give a quick run through of high side of the budget to explain some things, mostly about how revenue impacts our percentage increase, and that sometimes having a really good understanding of what staff has been doing over 2024 and some of the thought processes that have gone into the creation of the 2025 budget, I thought it might help for some clarity as to where we are. Senior staff is here today, council, to work with you. We are hopeful that as we make decisions today, that Aaron will be able to provide you in real time the exact percentage increase that we're working with. So once I get through my presentation and Mayor Logo ends up back with the DERs that based on your decisions here today, we'll be able to provide you an immediate update as to what that decision is about and how we're moving forward. So I invite you to the budget package, and I would like you to start on page 12, please. We'll roll through this fairly quickly. I will speak to my points that I have here just to identify it and address some things with council. So on page 12, we had more staff in 2023 than we are proposing in 2025. Given the current landscape of what services we need to provide and to a certain quality level, it's only realistic that we try to get back to where we were in 2023. However, we have proposed 25 full-time staff, not 28, still operating at a 3 staff shortfall from that point of time. Please move to page 17. Page 17 identifies the amount of work that has been accomplished in 2024 and presented to council. These are a ton of plans. Some of these plans are new to the community, and these plans are now for us to follow. And when I identify a plan process versus work project process, we have to first do the plan, and then we have to go through those plans and identify the work that needs to be done. And then we need to bring the work that needs to be done back to council to identify if we can procure it. So most of the items in here, as we identify that during 2025, will probably have an impact on your 2026 budget.
We're not talking about 2026, or are we talking about 2026?
No, I'm identifying the work process. So
Okay.
because we have these plans that were done in 2024, staff's job is to go through the plans, identify the work that needs to be done on priority sequence, bring those reports back to council so that we can identify what procurement is needed, and so council can make a decision. Either 2025, we had prior plan for it if we had the information, but if we didn't, then it falls to the 2026 budget.
Mary Catherine, you have a comment?
I'm just wondering if are you comfortable with us asking as you go?
I'd like to get through it, and I'd like to ask council if you would please make some notes, and I'd be happy to address it when I get through.
Go ahead.
Would you like to address the procedural bylaw?
Yes. Procedural bylaw states that if you're out and if we call a vote, you cannot vote. That's what it says. So if council wants to leave for a break, I can't stop him.
Very good.
But that should be recorded that he stepped out at whatever time was, and he comes back at a certain time.
Please move to page 18. One of the questions that was asked at the last council budget meeting was that where does staff find the formulas to follow with respect to finance allocation? Page 18 identifies all of the policies that we would follow and where we would obtain our information. Not to mention that we would gain information from neighboring municipalities and also opportunity through everyone's professional opinion and position within the township. Please move to page 18. Sorry, page 22. This chart identifies our 2025 revenues versus our 2025 expenses. What I wanted to point out was that in 2024, the total revenues were $5,539,033. We have dropped that to $5,186,009.69 for 2025. This is why you are seeing a tax variance of $599,329.40, thus giving you a tax increase of 7.44%. If we kept the same numbers in 2024, your tax variance number, and what I mean by that is if we kept the same revenue number as in 2024, your tax variance would be $246,306.09, a tax increase rate of approximately 2.5%. I'd point out that's 7.44 dropped to 2.5% if we kept the same revenue. Now, if we were to be financially responsible in projecting our revenues, you always want to project revenues that are obtainable. If we were to balloon the revenue side, obviously it drops the tax percentage. And that is what I was wanting to point out to council. Your current staff believe that financial responsibility starts with presenting real numbers. Further, it is far more advantageous to be in a situation where we may potentially overshoot the budgeted revenues, thus identifying more monies for reserves at the end of the year, should that be possible, or the ability to obtain more. Please go to page 23. On page 23, the percentage breakdown by department. I've heard council ask questions about the appropriate breakdown for different departments, mostly about parks and recreation. Comparatively speaking, here are some numbers of your surrounding communities with respect to parks and recreation. Cobourg in 2024, parks and recreation was 20%. Culture and community was an additional 8%. 2025, their parks and rec was 20%. Culture and community was an additional 9%. Hamilton in 2024, recreation and culture was 16%, and in 2025 was 16%. Trent Hills 2025 parks and recreation is 15.67%, and Port Hope 2025 parks and recreation is 17%. We've identified park and recreation here within your percentage to fall somewhere within the scope of what other municipalities are doing, because we feel that your parks and recreation and culture is a significant service to the residents of the township. Please go to page 24. Page 24 is the proposed 2025 levy increase. This is identified just so that we have a realistic idea of how much per month your current budget at 7.44% is increasing on tax payments per month for the residents of the township. Please go to page 29. Reserves are going to go up and down. However, I want to point out that when you produce an unrealistic budget, your reserves are going to go down. We need to empower staff to try and bring in as much revenue dollars as possible in 2025 and beyond, so that we can help to alleviate the tax burden on residents. However, it should also be pointed out that we are trying to run a corporation on 2016 evaluation assessments from MPAC. It is completely unrealistic to operate in 2025 with 2016 evaluations, but we have no choice at the present time. Please go to page 32. Council's budget has increased due to increases in wages, upcoming elections, and integrity commissioner expenses. Those are your three key areas to which the council budget has increased. Please go to page 33. Donations to council as directed at last budget meeting to do with the policy. Everyone has been contacted by Aaron at this time. So your numbers are updated for that, which Mayor Lobo will come back for you to deliberate on. Please go to page 41. On page 41, you'll identify that the revenues in the clerk's department was lowered by $205,864.75. This is to make it more realistic as to achievable goal in the revenue lines. Page 42. Expenses were lowered by $146,029.75. Capital was increased by $60,054. Overall total expenses for the administration or the clerk's department was lowered by 88,000. Sorry, the administration department was lowered by $88,175.50. Please go to page 51. Cemetery revenues were increased to recognize that we have to care for them differently and that the township needs to be in control of all burials and operations of the cemeteries. We have also lowered the expenses in a realignment of this department, with both combined. Your net required by taxation is a fraction of what it was in 2024. Page 53. Simply, council has accepted the building department budget as a $0 required by taxation. You will notice that the report shows $109,800 coming from reserves, but $112,500 going back to reserves. This department is well underway to being self-sufficient as it is intended to be. Please go to page 62. In fire, total expenses are marginally lower. Capital expenses is lower by $137,725 over 24. Total expenses is lower by $146,229. Required by taxation is only up by $18,000. It should be noted your capital expense line will decrease by $400,000 in 2026 due to the apparatus procurement plan. And that will identify more money to use in other departments. Please go to page 65. We have spoken about the need for this department, the bylaw department, and the lack of funding associated over years. Our current budget plan is working as we have seen a major decline in the amount of bylaw complaints. However, we must support this department to ensure consistency of people following bylaws in the township. Please go to page 69. Parks and Recreation Department, we have lowered just marginally the revenue line. And on page 70, it shows you that we've increased the expenses by $220,446, and total capital is decreased by $21,500. Overall, the required by taxation of this department is increased by $204,216. Please go to page 74. 74, we have in facilities, we've decreased the revenue line to $111,600. And on the following page, page 76, two more pages, we have increased the expenses by $200,000 and the capital expenses by $65,000. Overall, the increase of this department for taxation is $308,378. That is to accommodate what we feel is a requirement under the Parks and Recreation and Facilities budget. Please go to page 105. Skipped over planning because council approves it. In theory. Now, Public Works is different. Public Works, we have increased the revenues. That is largely based because of the OCIF formula. That monies that we get for road construction, road infrastructure, road use, I believe from the MTO. Please go to page 107. 107, we have decreased our operating expenses mostly due to finding efficiencies by $451,277. However, we increased the capital expenses by $255,000. Net required by taxation is down almost $300,000 in this department. You will notice that the total expenses in the 2024 actual is still considerably lower than what was budgeted in 2024. We're still monitoring and watching this department, and under the direction of our new Public Works manager, we will be working to identify what monies we absolutely need, what monies we can maybe put forward into new infrastructure, into the capital line. However, we have to go through this process as your staff to be able to find these dollars to make them work better for the residents of the township. Please go to page 108. On page 108, council will need to consider $338,100 that is dedicated to roads that we share with Alderville First Nations. We do have an agreement in principle that our last council has signed, and we do need to work towards building these roads, reconstructing these roads, resurfacing these roads as per our agreement. But I give this to you to council so that I identify it, that out of $950,000 capital investment in your road infrastructure, you have a third going to a shared road network, which is something that requires a fair bit of work detail. Please give me 1 minute. Please go to page 19. I'm referring to table 1. And that is to do with the VERs that were presented to council. Mayor Lobo will come back to the 2024 community or 2025 community grant applications. I'd like to speak to BR 2025-1 deputy CAO. It has been part of the landscape here at this township that there has been a deputy CAO. I would just like to point out that when you have people occupying dual roles, it takes dual roles to support that as well. I can definitely say that my feeling as your CAO, as also the fire chief, that a decision ultimately needs to be made there. But the support of the deputy CAO would definitely assist that position moving forward. Development charges. You have the township has approximately $2.5 million in development charges. Council asked for us to go back to the existing provider or the company that provided the last policies on how our township can use these dollars. It's although they don't have time to do it, it is really recommended that we find a company that has the purview to do this so that we can create a policy and get access to those dollars. It is going to significantly affect what you can achieve, more so in infrastructure than anything else. Compensation and pay equity review. It's needed. Our policy identifies it should be done every 3 years. We are at year 5. I know there has been a lot of conversation at council with respect to this, but it is definitely needed. You will see that we've identified in the next following BRs goals that will need to be removed. I can say that, you know, in overall analysis of your budget and what we've brought forward in 2025, it is the dollar increase is really insignificant to what staff has asked for. I know that Mayor Logal has suggested a percentage for levy increase to put away for infrastructure for the future. And there's many things here that I'm asking this council to consider to make some smart decisions for our staff to move forward with. Customer service representative identifies the goals removed for not funding the position. And then you have some more updates with the rest of the BERs. I will suggest to Mayor Lowell that I've given my presentation and tried to identify some key areas for our council to pay attention to while making your decisions today. And please know that we're here to help you and here to work with you. And as you make your decision, we'll try to give you the information that we can. Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna have to do some discussion, and we appreciate all the work staff has done to put this together. And we'll find out what council thinks of some of the stuff. I'd like to start at the very last page, which is on page 122, and it's the next steps. The council to consider the implementation of a designated infrastructure reserve levy to address the future assets and infrastructure needed in the township. And I bring you this to your attention because I think you need to be considering this as we go through the entire budget. Because there's an awful lot of, I can think of three things that are coming up that are going to come up real quickly that we have not have any money put away for. And that I expect there's going to cost some money. And that is the bridge at I can't think of the name of it.
Bulls Mills?
Bulls Mill Road. That's projected to be over $500,000. I don't know exactly what it is, but we're told that that bridge is needed to be replaced urgently. The second one that I would think that we haven't got it, that's coming ahead and we don't know what it's going to cost, because I don't know what it's going to cost, but it's something that residents are expecting, and that is the improvements to the road for the kids coming across going to school. We've had a study done on that. I don't know what the cost is on it yet, and I don't think anybody else does, because I don't think we've got a report yet. Have we, Dave?
Mayor Logo, I have not received the final report on that. And so that council is aware, my understanding is the report will identify the safety needs, the safety study. It will make recommendation as to solutions, but it will not offer what those solutions cost. The next step would be for staff to, after council has received that report, would be to go through the process to identify costing, to be able to bring that back to council with a future plan on how it will be achieved.
And the third one, and perhaps the most expensive one that I can see coming at us, is the condition of the Grafton Municipal Office. And we don't know what that's going to cost, but whether we expect there has to be some improvements done on it, and whether those improvements can be done at a cost less than replacement, I don't know, but I would think that's not going to be cheap. The other thing that I'd like to mention before we even start is our reserves have dropped $2 million roughly in the past 3 years. And that is, those reserves are being paid to keep everything moving. I think a lot of it has gone to the fire department, and I'm told, as Dave mentioned earlier, that those costs will not continue for a long time to come. But I believe we spent roughly $750,000 each year for that, for vehicles. And that's basically what's coming out of how much the reserves have dropped. So I think we have to keep that into consideration as we move along. So what I suggest we do is I've picked out a few pages that I think we need to talk about, and we'll talk about them. And you are more than welcome to stop me if I missed a page that you're going to do, but I think we're going to have a good chit chat about some of the things that we're seeing. So I'm going to start on page 12 too. Well, I would like to see, Dave, a chart, organizational chart showing what we have in 2024 versus 2025. Because to be honest with you, I'm confused. I don't know how we're going down 2 people in 2025 when we know we're hiring 2 for sure. And I think your recommendations are for more. So I would like to see an organization chart for 2000 at the end of 2024 and an organization chart showing what we're going to have in 2025. And I think if you take your sheet or the sheet there that you have, where it shows the CAO fire chief as the top, and then your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people under that, then we'll get a better, I will get a better idea as to what the real numbers are. And the other comment I have on there, I did not go through it all, but if we're dropping from 27 to 25, we should see an overall reduction in the labor throughout the organization. And I don't see that, but maybe that's there, but I just don't see it. But I wonder if we could have that provided for each the whole department and see what the whole thing costs. So do I need a resolution to have that done? I guess we're maybe. So I'd like to make a motion that an organization chart be provided showing the 2024 at the end of 2024 and the 2025 and see what the changes.
For full-time staff.
Well, I've having actually a hard time with part-time staff too, because I don't know what the part-time staff is. I'm pretty sure the seasonal has to do with the arena as well as public works, because we probably hire some people in there too. Perhaps we should do the whole 3 of them. What do you think?
I think that's good. Might as well, if you're gonna research it, might as well tell us all.
Okay. Can I get a mover and seconder for that then?
I'll move that.
Move that, seconded.
Yes, and you had mentioned also to get all of the labor costs set out for us. So I'm wondering if that shouldn't be included in this motion and just make it one.
Can that be done? Okay. Do you mind if we amend that?
Yeah, no, that's good.
Any discussion on that resolution?
Can I just ask for a timeline on that? Because specifically, you're looking at probably into March because of T4s and everything else that needs to come in February.
Okay. I think that we should have the 2 of them split then. We should have one that should be able to be done before the organization's chart should be done before we meet again. I don't think that'll be a problem, and probably the end of March would be reasonable. Is that okay with everybody else? Go ahead, Mary Catherine.
I think you might, from your comment, think that we're asking for something a little more in depth. Just when you're looking at the budget that's in front of us, I know that last year the treasurer was able to just pull that as a line out of as part of the reports that is provided already by the software, and it wasn't something that had to be researched. So I'm just, yeah.
Just a sec. Treasurer, would you like to respond to that, please?
2024 issues are not an issue. It will be pulling out 2025 numbers as they're not in the system. So it would have to look at the positions where they sit and the cost of all those items.
I believe our our clerk has pointed out that information is already in it on page 5. For 2000, I guess this is for 2025. Let's see, page 25, 26, I'm sorry, I can't read it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So would you be able to pull the 24 and compare that? Shouldn't be that big a
The
problem.
2024 is in here from our budget last year.
No. Oh, I think we should ask staff to do that. Go ahead.
I would agree, Mr. Mayor, that that's very important if we're looking at finalizing the budget, is we want to know where the positions, like what the 2 or 3 positions that we're missing or we're not, and what the total increase between 2024 and now, because like you said, they should correlate. If we're less positions, we should be spending less money then. And to make an informed decision on the budget, we need those numbers, and I don't think it's that hard to really pull it out.
Well,
By the next meeting, we're talking 3 positions, that's all, that
well,
28, 25.
Yeah, I think we'll let the staff to decide how much work it is, because I don't know, and I don't think you probably know either. But I'm wondering if you can use that figure on page 25,
26.
26. You see that, Aaron?
I do see that. So you're saying you just want an overall picture. You don't want it done per department, because that was initially your request, was per department.
Okay. Be nice to have it per department, but could you at least compare 2025 with the actual 2024? And that shouldn't be that much of a problem. Okay, so we should, hopefully we're going to see a couple $100,000. I would think less, 2024.
Then you also have to take in consideration of the COLA increases from 2024 and 2025 and step increases as well.
Yep.
Per positions.
Yes, but we're thinking we're going to see a drop in 2025, correct? I would hope we would, because we're going down in bodies, so. Pardon me?
In one area.
What area?
In one area.
Yeah. Well, that's the major one.
But it's
I think-
going up in other areas, so.
Further discussion? All in favor? Oh, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment too that what we're asking for, and are we giving our staff time to do this? Because as you mentioned, we don't know just what all is involved, and our treasurer has noted the workload that she has. So I just would like to be considerate with that ask, if it's something that can be accomplished.
Treasurer, would you like to comment?
If it's just a straight number from 2024 to 2025, that can be pulled very simply. It is the other of breaking down to departments and others. To produce an org chart, is not an issue, because they are already created. It's just updating.
Thank you.
Councilor O'Neill.
I think that what we're looking at is what we had before, the budget impact details, which was an overview. It wasn't specific by department.
Okay, all in favor? That's carried. I have page 19 again. And that'll be the what do we call them? Changes to the BREs, I believe.
BERs.
BERs, pardon me. I calculated what you had shown, Dave. And if we take everything out that we had, everything was taken out as was suggested, it would be a savings of about $104,000. And yet at the same time, which would have dropped it from 6.37 to 5.2%. If we took out what the, all of the ones that are mentioned over the 3 pages. Maybe 4 pages. 3 pages. But it actually went from, as you started off, 6.37 to 7.44, which is a swing upwards of $168,000. And the way I see that, there was $68,000 increase for administration, an $80,000 increase for rec and culture, and 23,000 for parks. So I think if I went through it all properly, the $68,000 increase for administration is up because finance is up $40,000 and human resources went up 20,000.
So that was to realign the positions as a full-time treasurer. And if you notice, HR went down because I moved my help at the time up into treasury, as my position will fully go down to an HR for payroll purposes. So there was some changes there, but the numbers went down.
The overall numbers went down. Okay. And I'm comparing, what are you comparing that to? I'm comparing that to the one that was out, the first one in December.
Correct. So if you look at the HR wages, they decreased where the treasury did increase a bit to realign the positions.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments on this? Go ahead.
Just to make a comment, because the CAO did mention too, Mr. Mayor, that when you adjust the revenues, that's going to affect that number too. So if they've adjusted the revenue, then it's going to impact the levy, right? So that's why we're sitting at 7.44 then. Because some of the revenues have been decreased, right?
Yes. Dave, in your presentation, you mentioned all of the comparison to Coburg and Port Hope and Hamilton Township. Did you mention Grammy?
No, I did not mention Grammy. I'm just gonna simply say I was not able to find it.
Okay. Well, that's possible. The only reason I mentioned it is because Grammy is a township like ours, more so than Coburg and Port Hope. And I think we struggle to do the best we can with the money that we got, and some other communities may have more money, but I think Grammy's in the same position as we are.
Through you, Mayor Lobo, on that note, Dave did mention Hamilton Township, which is a bit of a like, as it would be like Grammy. So that'd be my only comment there. Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Booth?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for bringing it up, because that was one of my notes. I'm just wondering if we could have Jeremy try and find out if he could contact Grammy and find out what their number is percentage wise that they spend on Parks and Rec. Because I agree that would give me a better number. They are more tied to us than Hamilton or Trent Hills or Coburg, especially. Coburg for sure. Coburg's huge.
Or Port Hope.
And the programs that they offer in Port Hope. So it's kind of skewers the numbers a bit. I can't see it being that hard to go to contact Grammy and find out budget wise what they spend on Parks and Rec. Should be a general number.
Can you handle that for us? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Catherine?
I just caution all of us sitting around this table that we in Alnwick-Haldeman have more roads and significantly more roads than any other township to pay for, and therefore we're going to have to put a larger part of our budget to roads than anyone else. I believe we have almost twice as many roads as Grammy, for example. We have more roads than Trent Hills. We have more roads than Hamilton, and we have to pay for 430 kilometers of roads.
And that's paid by 3,600 households, I believe.
Yeah,
So doing a quick calculation, that's only 10 houses per. Actually, less than 10 per mile of road, and we're trying to compete with the Coburgs and the Port Hopes, which we can't compete with because it's not the same. Okay, yes,
Would this be a time where I could comment on page 19?
yes,
One of the things when the junior mayor logo to our recreation staff, Jeremy, and as well to Dave, one of the items that I did request, and I was happy to see it here, is the goals that will be removed. And specifically, page 20, and that has to do with the, oh, wait a minute. Customer service representative, and all that will be removed from there. So I really struggle because customer service was one item that we all, when we took these seats, wanted to see improved. And to me, this needs to have a rethink, and especially the customer service
sorry, point of
representative.
order, Mayor Logo. This was voted upon at the last meeting, and if we're going to reconsider, it would have to be someone who voted and wants to change their vote at this point.
that's correct. But before we do that, I would like to start with number one and go through them. And if that comes up, then we'll go from there. Is that okay, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, that would be fine. Thank you.
So the first one I have is 2024-12-1603, which is invite 2024 community grant recipient to submit applications. And there was 2 additional applications received, plus the $300 divided amongst 3 primary schools for an increase of $4,300, which has a levy impact of 0.05%. And I believe if you go to page
33.
33. So my understanding is that the Roseneath Agricultural was added. And
Haldeman Court.
and Haldeman Court. I believe that's what I had too. So I'm gonna give you my thoughts, and then you can think about that or do whatever you want. First of all, regarding community care Northumberland, we've taken that up from 2,000 to 3,000. Last year in 2024, they asked for 3,000. This council, someone made a recommendation that be cut to 2,500. That was turned down, and council agreed to the $2,000. So it would be my recommendation that we remain there at 2,000. The other one is the Haldeman Court. They're asking for laundry facilities. I'm saying, do we have the authority, first of all, to do that? I believe we do. If we want to give them $2,000, we can give them 2,000. Do we have a responsibility? I'm not sure that we do. I think it's something that'd be nice to do, but if we know if we're in the position we are, I think we got to consider that. I know we did give them $2,000 last year, and that was to help them with a culvert. I think we give them a culvert and put a second road in there for them, just to over the ditch. And finally, I've got to ask, can we afford to do that? So I'm saying we should not be doing that. Comments? Go ahead, Councillor Booth.
A couple of comments through you, your worship. I would agree with you with the community care Northumberland. Going from 2,000 to 3,000 is a huge increase, and I wouldn't support that. I would support giving them their $2,000. the Haldeman Court Apartments, I'm just wondering, Aaron, if they resubmitted to you, was it for, because I believe the request last year was laundry facilities and it had to do with either washer dryers, or was it the coin operated? Maybe you can comment, Councillor O'Neill, because I know you have more information. So I thought it had to do with the chemicals and that too, helping them out or whatever so I'm not quite sure about that. And I guess the other concern I have is the Centerton 4-H life skills, because it was brought up that group, we were hoping to pass this quickly. So, because that group, I think, wants to use the facility in January. So I'm just wondering if we do come to some kind of agreement on this today, that group, could they start using the facility in February instead of waiting until we finally, I don't know whether that's possible or not.
So can I go back to your first comment, Councillor Booth, and you make a motion that be cut from $3,000 to $2,000?
I would, if other councillors want to speak on it first, and then I would gladly make that motion then I don't want to make it without the other councillors having a discussion on it.
It should be the motion first.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that the Community Care Northumberland budget request for $3,000 be reduced to $2,000, what it was in 2024.
Thank you. Councillor Booth, can I get a seconder for that? Second by Councillor Ainsworth. Any discussion? Councillor O'Neill?
I'm wondering if it would make sense to go to 2,100 just because their costs would have gone. And that would be in line with the rest of our increase.
Thank you. Councillor Booth, do you know to change?
No, because if you say that, Councillor O'Neill, then we'd have to look at everybody and say they all get an increase, right? The issue that I have with Community Care Northumberland, and if you remember last year when they presented, is they also are getting and Aaron, you can comment on this, is that we sign with CRAMI about the transportation thing where they get a benefit from us too. So don't forget about that. So, and John, maybe you know more about it. I can't remember what it is, but so I wouldn't support the 20. Okay. I wouldn't support it. I would just make it at $2,000.
I'm going to call for the vote. Yes.
To your Mayor Lobo, is this Community Care Northumberland, is it strictly for the transportation component? I guess I'd direct that to our treasurer if I could.
Yeah. Aaron, you have a comment on that?
Yes, so it said if they receive the grant, how will they recognize? They said they would put an emblem on the van. It is for transportation purposes.
And I do, if I may as well, I do believe that they're getting our tax or our gas tax portion, which was sorry to do this to you, Aaron, through your Mayor Logo. Do we have an amount that they get from our portion?
Not at this time. I don't have that
Okay,
information.
sorry
That's
for
okay.
doing that. Thank you.
All in favor? That motion is carried. You mentioned another couple things, Greg.
The laundry facility, I see what you're saying, Mr. Mayor. I have no issue with it. It's a community group, very valuable. So I like that. And the only other comment was on the 4-H life skills, that maybe after we look at this, we can, and actually just one concern, Mr. Mayor, is the Roseneath Agricultural Board banner. I'm thinking we should put $250. They are going to come and they're going to ask us in September for $250 if we want the banner put up on the fence. And to say that we're not going to give it, are we prepared not to give them that when they ask for it in September? They probably didn't ask for it, not thinking.
No, they did not ask for that.
Just trying to, I know it's unbelievable that I'm trying to help them out, but they're going to come and ask us in September and to put it up on the
I'm not gonna
fence.
waste a lot of time on
No.
this
No.
subject, so
I just one
You
quick
have-
thing.
yeah.
Yes, is this like the advertisement? It costs everybody so much to put their sign on the fence?
yes.
So I would support the 250.
You need a motion to do that.
I'll I'll make it unless Counselor Booth would like to do
I'll
that.
second your motion.
All right.
Seconded. All in favor? Opposed?
Wow.
Yeah, go, Mary Catherine.
I have a question actually about Haldeman Court Apartments through to our treasurer, if I could.
Let's go through me.
Through you to our
I'll
treasurer.
decide who answers. You asked the question.
Okay, there was discussion and I think it went through that they were reducing the tax rate for multi-unit buildings. Because I know they used to pay double the tax rate and not get garbage service, but I believe their tax rate was reduced at the county or provincial level. You might actually know the answer.
I believe you're right, but I don't want to swear by it. Can you answer the question?
The multi-residential is being reduced at the county level each year. There is discussion about it. I don't know if it has been set yet that it is to reduce again. They're trying to get the rate down to 1 as the same as residential, but they're doing it over a year segment. So it's not completed yet for this year.
What has that got to do with this, deciding this?
If they are receiving a tax reduction from us already, then I would like to know what that tax reduction amount is, because that's also an increase in their revenue. And it's certainly something they asked and lobbied for, especially Bruce Lawson.
So is there anybody going to be a resolution on this?
I'd make a motion that we leave it as a status quo and give them the 2,000. It is a seniors facility and they're asking for an upgrade to their laundry facility. So that's what I think we should be supporting them.
Can I get a seconder? Second by Greg. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, it's been suggested, I think it's a great idea that we take this chart, make the amendment to the community care, add on Roseneath Agricultural Society for $250. And that's it. But I need a motion then to approve that, and then it's all done. Moved by Councillor Booth, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stolberg. Further discussion?
I won't be able to vote on this, but I am supportive.
All in favor?
I just wanted to ask, am I able at this time to notify the Chamber of Commerce? Because they're holding that table for us.
I would say once we've done this, then
Perfect.
you can, but I would suggest that staff handle it.
Oh, okay, sure.
Staff do it directly.
Thank you.
So
I did.
moved by Councillor Booth. Did you get that?
No.
Second by Deputy Mayor.
It was reversed, but makes no
Doesn't
difference.
matter.
All in favor? Opposed? You all in favor?
Yeah.
Okay. All unanimous.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
So along the same lines as what Deputy Mayor said, could staff contact the 4-H then and tell them that since it's been approved, they can go ahead with their, I guess it would be their February meeting, right?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, we will reach out to to the 4-H club and let them know that they can proceed with their bookings.
Okay, thank you.
So that was the first one done. The next one is 2024-1216, and this is to do with the creating a deputy mayor position. Back to page 19, yeah. You want to discuss this now, or you want to continue on and come back to it? How might we'll get it done?
It's done.
Okay. Yes, according to policy, this can be amended only if one of the people that, gotta think, that's the third. One of the people that rejected it has decided to, make a motion to change that person's vote. So you know who is involved in that? Madam Clerk? So this was dealt with on a recorded vote. The people that I list here can change their mind because they voted for it. Okay. So Councillor Ainsworth could change his vote, Councillor Booth and Councillor Mary Catherine and myself. Or is anybody wishing to change their vote? No?
So for clarity from a procedural standpoint, we're not asking to change the vote at this time. We'd be looking for a motion to reconsider, which could be granted by anybody who voted in the affirmative for the original motion, which was to remove it. And that the motion to reconsider, if approved by majority of council at that time, after seconded, of course, then you would go back to reconsidering the original motion.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Mike.
Mayor, before you bring it up in consideration, can I have some just clarification on the 0.4% decrease?
Oh, yes,
Just how they calculate that out.
they took the, please go ahead, Aaron, and tell us how you did that.
So that is looking at the levy impact and how it would affect the levy overall. So when we decrease that amount out of the budget, it will give us a levy amount and we decrease that. So that's where that percentage comes from.
Is anybody wishing to bring that to our attention to that they want to change their vote? Councillor Ainsworth.
Mayor, I'd make a motion to reconsider that vote.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor? Motion is defeated. Next we have BER 2025-02 development charges review update with findings. I'm going to suggest that we accept this as it is. I think there's an awful lot of opportunity, and I can't remember the figure, but I believe you told me, Aaron, it was $250,000 that we would be saving in reserves by doing this, if everything went at what you expect. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Through you, your mayor, that is correct. Because of our current development charge study, it does not allow for us to use development charge money to cover the cost of studies. If we move forward with this development charge study, it would in itself be covered under development charges, as well as the other studies that have been put forth in this budget that are now being covered by reserves at this time. And tax levy, sorry.
Thank you. Anybody have any comments? Anybody want to make a motion? Councillor Booth.
I'll make a motion that the BER 2025-2 be accepted, which was, I believe, for $40,000.
Can I get a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Ainsworth. Any further discussion? Councillor O'Neill.
Back to our discussion from the last meeting, this is a very current document and we do have a specific issue that you're asking about. Do you think it will require the full 40,000 to address that issue?
I do. If you look at the current document, they did not update our asset management as well. So there is outdated information in the study that they did not consider. So by looking at these items, we can definitely look at growth as well, which they did not consider in the current development study. We are this year at a 1% growth that again was not considered So as we grow in our township, this growth is not considered to be eligible for new asset items as well.
You have a follow-up?
Yes, so logistically then, this would be something we're doing midway through the year, once we've got our new asset management numbers to provide to this person then?
Treasurer, please go ahead.
I would request to actually start the process now, because they need to consider our current infrastructure. So they would still get the list of items that are currently, and as well as, because this can go hand in hand with the water master plan that's going through, which could be covered as well as the other study that we talked about earlier that is in motion. So those items could be covered under development charges instead of the reserve and the tax levy. So the quicker we can move forward with it, the more money we can make accessible to the budget and the 2025 year.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful information.
All in favor? Motion's carried. Next, we have 2024-12-1607, staff provide report on feasibility of completing compensation pay. I get a mover and a second to put it on the floor, moved by Deputy Mayor Stover, seconded by Councilor Booth. Any discussion? No. I guess we shouldn't move and second that yet until we have a chance to somebody make a motion on it, and we haven't had a motion on it yet. So, Aaron, do you have anything to update us on this?
Sorry, through you, your mayor, which one are we discussing?
The staff provide a report of feasibility for completing compensation pay.
Oh, yes, so through this one, after doing some more research, through our policies, it's actually supposed to be done every 3 years, and we're now in our 5th year. As well as pay equity legislation, we are not meeting pay equity legislation under our policy as well as legislation, as this needs to be completed. The last time I believe pay equity was done was 2019 into 2020. So we are a little behind on those items as well.
Thank you. Councilor Booth.
Yes, through you, your worship, I'm not in favor of this, and I can tell you now because I do see there's a change in here now where it says, due to the upcoming negotiations for CUPE for a collective agreement, all changes to proposed unionized positions are on hold. This compensation and pay equity review is only for non-unionized positions only. So I'd like to defer this until next year, hopefully next year, if there's a new collective agreement, if we're going to spend, and I believe you can correct me if I'm wrong, Aaron, was it 40,000 we had budgeted? If we're going to spend $40,000, I don't want to do it for the non-unionized employees. And then next year, we're going to have to do another one for $40,000 on the unionized people. So it was done in 2020, because I recall being here on last council when we did it for the pay equity, and the town mixes in the compensation too. But I think if we're looking at cutting some costs that we don't really have to do, that's somewhere where we could cut that for this year. And once there's a collective agreement, we do everybody at once next year.
Thank you. The motion was to take this off.
Well, I thought we were just discussing and then somebody could, I don't want to make a motion till I've heard everybody's arguments to
can't really put it on the table until we get a mover and a second. Isn't that cool? Yeah. Yeah, but right now we can move. Yes.
But I think what
We
the
already
clerk's saying
did
is
that.
we can discuss it before somebody makes a motion, right? Or would you like me to make that motion right away and then it's just.
Go ahead, clerk.
So as a process of debate, in order to have that conversation, you need to know what it is that you're debating and discussing amongst yourselves. So you would have to put something on the floor and that gives you your common point to then discuss around. And from there, when it comes down to the vote, it can go from there. So you're either going to put a motion on the floor to that it be removed from the 25 budget package or that it be approved. And then from there, you allow it to do its democratic process.
Mayor, I would make a motion that this be removed from the 2025 budget and put on next year's.
I get a seconder. Seconded by Councillor O'Neill. Any questions? Councillor O'Neill.
Yes, I think you make a valid point that we are in quite an interesting process this year. I'm wondering if this is in fact not where we need money in terms of deciding who is paid what this coming year, but rather some money for the process of going through working to establish this first contract and those types of things. And at this point, we've not authorized any funds for the hiring of a lawyer or anything else for this first contract process. So I'm wondering if that's not where we should be allocating funds rather than going ahead. I agree. I think we'll have a much better understanding of where we are once we're through that process.
Ms. Treasurer? Is there any money in this budget for talking with or developing a response to the union?
Under the administration cost, under HR services and legal, there was an increase in budget amount to go through the negotiation process.
Sorry, what page?
Page 42, I believe.
I think we're getting a little bit off subject.
You asked the question.
I know.
Well, it's there.
Are there any further comments regarding the motion? Councillor or Deputy Mayor Stover.
Through you, Mayor Logal, to Aaron, you mentioned legislative points that what happens if we don't meet them? Are we fined?
I would have to look into the actual procedures of not meeting them.
Do you have a follow-up?
Just to follow up as well, sorry, Councillor Ainsworth. The other question I have is, obviously managers wouldn't be included in that situation. Is this something that could be managers this time and completed differently next year? I guess the biggest concern I have is fines not meeting the legislation. So that's a big component of my question.
Any questions or comments, Mike?
Yeah, through you, Mayor. I'm just kind of wondering if it's like, if we're comparing apples to oranges.
They are.
In my past, the contract will deal with any monetary issues with our employees through that contract issue, and then they will probably have language in there when it comes to cost of living and stuff as it goes through. Where salary employees, such as our staff, would have to go by regulations. So I'm just kind of, I don't know if we're comparing the same things here, although I do. Councillor Booth makes a valid point. If we're going to spend $40,000 now, and if we have to spend extra money for our employees that are going to be in the union, or is that just going to be covered by the contract negotiations?
I don't have the exact answer, but from my experience is you have to meet equal work for equal pay, basically. And that deals more with female versus male legislation. Everybody has to be paid equally. I know I'm using the wrong terminology, but that is to be considered. Deputy Mayor, or pardon me, Councillor O'Neill.
I appreciate the comments that are coming here, and I'd like to make a motion to defer until we get some answers for the questions that have come forward.
Thank you. I want to, before we do that, I'd like to have the CAO make a comment.
Through you, Mayor, to council. So it is my understanding that the pay equity study compensation review is for the cost comparators, exactly what you've already identified with respect to male and female. And it is something that is required legislatively. My understanding is that the pay for unionized employees will be identified and bargained through the collective agreement process.
Councillor Booth.
Through you, your worship. So I guess my concern would be is that we're going to do, if we do the managers and it costs us $40,000, and then next year that we're looking at pay equity and wage comparison for the unionized people, I want to make sure we're not duplicating, because if you come up with a collective agreement, and let me just use a number here, that we pay them $10 an hour, and then the consultant says, guess what? The medium wage is supposed to be $14 an hour. That's what you should be paying. We're sort of, I think we're spending money unwisely. And when it comes to, I can answer the question that the Deputy Mayor asked, when it comes to legislation and that, it's recommended that it be done every 5 years. The last time we did it, we were a year or two late and nothing happened to us, because we can show the province that we're in the middle of negotiations and we've deferred it 1 year. I'm not saying it's never going to happen. It just, this year is not the best way to spend $40,000 to do basically, I'm going to pick a number, it's probably 8 positions, 8 managers positions, or 8 actual positions for 40 grand or something, is to me is a total waste of money.
Thank you. Any other comments? Councillor Ainsworth.
So is this something we could do in-house? And like, is this, or do we do it in-house and this is just like wages for our employees covering that?
I think we talked about that last week. We said, or it was recommended by staff, that you should have professionals do it. That's what I recall of the recommendation. We've had a motion that we haven't addressed yet, which was defer until. Why did you want to defer?
Actually, I've just heard some answers to the questions, but it was to get answers to some of the questions being asked about our duties around this, but also the impact of the first contract on this.
So your motion is to defer. We have to put in time. Thank you. And the clerk has informed me that if she gets a seconder to her vote, then we would, staff would have that information available for us on February the 10th, which is our next budget meeting. Deputy Mayor?
I would second that.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The motion's carried. Okay. We keep going for,
Mhm.
the next one is 2024-12-16-12, hire general labor at a lesser rate than park and recreation foreman person. Correct me if I'm wrong, was that already decided?
I thought we did that.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, that position was, the original ask was for a Parks and Trails four-person. And council approved at our last budget meeting that a general laborer be hired instead of the four-person position. So the table that's on you on page 20 identifies the goals that have been removed to reflect that change in the downgrading of that position that's was approved.
So in order to reconsider, we would have to know who was. Okay. So if to reconsider, we need a motion to do that first before we can continue the discussion.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
could I maybe get something clarified before we start really going through this? Aaron, can you just confirm where are we sitting right now? Are we sitting at a 7.44% increase? Plus, we're looking at council later deciding on a asset management thing, which is we're talking 3.5. We're looking at a 10% increase for the taxpayer. And just confirm that, please, and then I'll make the comment.
Sure. So right now with even just the slightest changes that have been made, we are down to a 6.49. So that was just adjusting the donations portion of it.
Okay. And
So 7.44 to 6.49 for $1,000.
Again, it's just how the numbers are working out because there's no revenues associated, but every 1,000 is a 0.08 right now.
And we've gone from 7.33 to 6 point.
Yes, because I also made
Go ahead.
also I had to adjust the libraries of a couple of numbers that I didn't have prior.
We're not, I mean, you're not talking before growth and after growth, are you?
No,
so I guess my comment would be if we're somewhere around 9 or 10%, council has to really look at some of these numbers today because I'm not willing as a councillor to go to the public to say that we're looking at.
Matter.
I know, I'm just making my comment that when we're talking about the whole impact, that's all.
But what we're gonna do is decide whether we're gonna bring that back to the table or not.
Yeah.
Okay, so does anybody want to bring this back to table?
Who could?
Who could? Okay, unable to vote is Councilor Ainsworth and Deputy Mayor Stover. Yes. Nodded. People who are able to vote are Mayor Lowell, Deputy Mayor Stover, and Councilor Mike Ainsworth.
We're able to vote?
Are change the vote.
You're able
So
to
we
bring
vote-
it forward
Bring forward.
because you voted for it.
I will bring this forward to
Okay.
change.
Can I get a seconder? Second by Councilor Booth. Deputy Mayor, you have the first opportunity to speak.
Oh, I completely, I thought we were bringing, the way I looked at it, and I apologize. When I look at the goals removed and I look at, some of the functions that were removed was a rentable business space, which would give us revenues. So I would, am I able to put it back to a four-person?
4%.
Mhm. A trails four-person instead of a general labor.
Go ahead.
Wait to, oh, I think the clerk's.
Go ahead, sir.
So as a matter of procedure, right now, we're just discussing whether or not we want to reconsider the general labor position or not. So we're not getting into the meat and potatoes of position versus position, just whether or not we want to reopen discussion on that piece.
And
So two-step
possibly
process.
change it.
Correct. Your next bit would put the original motion of, if the motion to reconsider is approved, then you go back to December 16th and you would then, at that point, you're rediscussing whether or not staff be authorized to hire a general laborer position at a lesser rate than a Parks and Trails foreman. So you're going back in time to December 16th and rehashing that conversation that you had initially.
Okay.
But first you have to decide collectively as to whether or not you even want to do that.
Any other comments?
No.
Any comments from anybody else? All in favor? All in favor to change.
No,
Reconsider.
all in favor to reconsider.
All in favor to reconsider, yes. All in favor to reconsider?
To reconsider that the position be changed. And go back to before we voted.
We do this right.
Yep, I want to.
Yeah,
Why?
Because I would like to get back to the discussion of having it looked at as a four-person instead of a general laborer. However, we can do that.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, as a matter of procedure, right now, we are simply voting on a yes or no as to whether or not we want to rehash the conversation. That
Okay.
will determine what our next step is.
Okay, I'd
Okay.
like to rehash. Yep.
That's clear.
All in favor? Okay, that's carried.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the motion?
Well, now we're back to what it was.
Now we're rehashing.
So,
Go ahead.
so through you, Mr. Mayor, the motion on the floor to be reconsidered is that staff be authorized to hire a general laborer position at a lesser rate than a Parks and Trails foreman.
Can I get a motion?
And that motion was originally moved on December 16th by Councillor Ainsworth and seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover.
Councillor Ainsworth, do you have any comments?
Well, I just to reiterate, it's such a, there's the amount of people that are there and how many, what do we have for foremans now plus Jeremy,
Jeremy,
right?
you have a comment, please, or a question to answer?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, currently we have one foreman plus myself.
And just as a follow-up, how many people reporting to the foreman?
Approximately 8 part-timers, fluctuates based on season.
Okay. Councillor Booth.
I guess through you, your worship, going through the deputy mayor's concerns about goals removed, maybe Jeremy could explain to me whether it's a general laborer or if it's a what did you call it, a four-person. Can you tell me that how that means that renovating the outdoor canteen would be removed and installing signage would be removed? It's still a body. So whether or not the person's a foreman or they're just a worker, I can't see why they still couldn't renovate the canteen and put up signs.
Mr. Giles, would you mind responding to that question, please?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, when we looked at a number of the positions that were removed, this one and the next item, not having those positions as they're written for person, this one specifically, puts more onus and time restraint on the manager of the department to go out and do some of that proactive work. And create work plans and assign laborers and part-time staff into different projects and things that need to be conducted around the township. So unfortunately, some of those bullet points need to be removed, just by way of tying up the manager's time instead of having a proactive four-person out there coordinating some of the work.
Thank you, Mr. Giles.
Follow up to that, Mr. Mayor, please.
Follow up.
So could we say that it's safe to say renovate the arena outdoor canteen and install the updated signage can be removed from that? Because whether or not it's a general laborer or if it's a four-person, that's what I don't understand. That's saying to me right now, the goals removed means we're not going to install updated signage because we've gone from a four-person to a laborer.
Mr. Giles?
That is what the chart is showing, correct? That those goals will be removed from the department goals as were originally put forth in the first budget package.
Thank you. Councilor O'Neill?
I concur with Councillor Ainsworth in his sentiment of why it makes sense to have a laborer. If we've got a manager and a four-person already, why in a department that size would we need more management? I actually wanted this to be reconsidered because I am concerned about the levy increase we are asking people to make. And so I would say, I'm not sure that we can afford any position, laborer or a four-person at this point, and that I would like to see it deferred. So I would like to make a motion to defer this one as well.
You have a motion to defer, and why do you want to defer?
I would like to wait. This is a nice to have item, and I'm not sure that we've got money for nice to have items at this point.
So we need to defer until December.
Until the end of the budget to decide if we want it to add it to the tax levy or not add it to the tax levy.
Thank you. You second her for that?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilor Booth. Councilor Ainsworth.
So just to clarify.
Are we deferring? We're just deferring to go back to the foreman, but we're still gonna keep the labor. Or just get rid of them both?
Yes, please go ahead.
So at this point, we have a motion to defer, made by Councillor O'Neill, seconded by Councillor Booth, that staff be authorized to hire a general labor position at a lesser rate than a Parks and Trails foreman. So with the motion to defer, the conversation on this piece would be stopping under the, stay with me here, because there's a lot of procedural chess playing here. Under the motion to reconsider, when you were discussing that initial motion of that staff be authorized to hire a general laborer position at a lesser rate than Parks and Trails foreman, you essentially went back in time to December 16th and deciding that, which would have put the Parks and Trails four-person position back on the table, because there is, at this point, you've decided that you're not sticking with that initial decision to replace one or the other. So at this point, you've got the motion to defer until February 10th, which would be the next budget meeting. So you're just ceasing conversation until you get more information and see what the final budget numbers are coming forward, is what I'm picking up from the conversation so far.
Did have a comment before we take the vote, Mayor Ogul, for me.
I've got Councilor Booth.
Sure. Absolutely.
Councilor Booth.
Yes, through you, your worship, and I agree with you, Councillor Ainsworth. It's just to defer this right now because I like what Councillor Mary Catherine said. It's a want, not a need, and I think if we can defer it until the next meeting and we find out where we sit with the tax levy, then we could decide, okay, is it worth it or not? I think the motion you made, I still didn't agree with it, but it was much better than having a foreman. And if we have to do it, then it would be better to have a laborer. But I think the comment you made stands, we should wait until the end and decide whether or not we really can afford that. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, through your Mayor Logo. The only comments I would have is that one thing that we can all agree on is our buildings have been neglected. And one of the key points that stick out in my mind is a chance to have revenues. And I can't see a general laborer working to this extent. So that would be my only comment on why I would like to have it looked at. Because if you don't look after your buildings, you're going to be paying a lot more. Thank you.
I'm going to call a vote to defer. All in favor of defer? Motion's carried. And that will come back on the 10th.
Mayor,
Yes.
through you, can I ask a question of what does this do now because of the first motion that was passed to hire the laborer?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we will be bringing back on February 10th, the discussion on whether or not to hire a general laborer at a lesser rate than Parks and Recreation foreperson. So that discussion will be coming back for council's decision on the 10th.
So even though it was passed already that we were going to do that?
Yep, go ahead.
Yes, that is
Yeah.
correct, because the motion to reopen the debate on that particular topic.
Okay.
What we decided on the December is no longer there.
Right.
Okay, moving along, BER 2027, PRF Customer Service Representative from draft budget 25. And this is for the clerk's department goals. And this is for reconsideration again. So you want to bring it up to reconsider? Now's the time to do so.
And who would be able to do that, Mayor Local?
So this is for reconsideration of the customer service representative. And I can reverse. Councillor Ainsworth can reverse, Councillor Booth can reverse, and Councillor Mary Catherine can reverse. Does anybody want to reverse? Councillor Ainsworth,
Yeah, I would make a motion to reconsider.
seconder,
I'll second it.
seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover. Councillor Ainsworth.
Well, when I look at the,
Okay. All in favor?
oh, yes.
This is just to rehash the debate.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm going to tell again, all in favor? Opposed?
Interesting.
Motion is defeated. What was that, Deputy Mayor?
I'm just writing down here deferred, or no, sorry, defeated.
Thank you. 2024, 12, 16, 14. Baseball diamond seating updated to include expected outcome for a $40,000 project. And this motion was deferred. I can't remember why.
So
You go ahead, CEO. Or, I'm sorry, CEO. Sorry, Dave. Dave, do you want to comment on this? Are you familiar with the? This says that we deferred it. Councilor, do you want to comment?
Your worship, I believe the discussion was whether or not we would do them all at once with $90,000, or the discussion was around, could we not lower that amount and maybe do one or two? And if we really like the job and the company that did it and the baseball people and everybody are happy with it, then we would go forward in the year after to do the rest of them.
That's what I recall too.
Yeah.
So, does anybody have any comments? Councilor Booth.
Through you, your worship, I spoke about this last time. I would be in favor of just doing ball diamond number 1, which is the most used diamond there, I believe. And to have a price on that and to have that done. And like I said, then if Jeremy is happy with it and the baseball people are happy with it and the workmanship and the construction of it and everything, then I think I would be in favor of Jeremy returning in next year's budget to say, let's do the other ones. But I think $90,000 to do it all at once is just too much. I would prefer just to do the one.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Mayor Logal. As I'm listening to this discussion, and what it kind of makes me chuckle here a bit is, and I'm not sure if you can answer this or not, Jeremy, but are these made in the States?
Mr. Giles, please go ahead and answer the question.
Oh, I'm sorry, I can address Mr. Giles.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I actually can't answer that off the top of my head.
I'm just thinking ahead because of the political climate and the tariffs and everything else, so could put us in a bit of a hot potato. Thank you.
Councilor O'Neill.
I just wanted to clarify with the clerk. Do we have a motion on the floor right now so that I'm speaking directly to it?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, the motion on the floor, because this was the deferred motion for allocating the 40,000. So the motion that was deferred back in December to today's discussion, which is where we've hit naturally in this chart on page 21, is that council enacts as follows, that $30,000 be allocated to the Ball Diamond Bleacher project with an additional $10,000 contingency. And that was initially moved by Councillor Ainsworth and seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councilor Booth.
So just for clarification, then, Madam Clerk, it's originally it was 90,000, so we're looking at $40,000 then.
Jeremy, would you like to comment?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So page 71 does show a revised BER for this, reflecting the 40,000 project and what would be able to be completed. The motion on December, or the direction on December 16th was send it back and see how much we could review the costing and see how much we think we could accomplish with the 40,000. And the BER states diamonds 1 and 2 for that amount.
40,000 for diamond 1. Correct. Thank you. Those are the most popular diamonds. I think they both have lights
I
on.
don't have that information in front of me. I believe.
They both have lights on them.
Correct. Yeah. Also, the BER does also point out 40,000 of new money plus 20,000 carryover from 2024 budget that was allocated to this project. So for 60,000, it would be diamonds 1 and 2.
Thank you. Councilor Booth.
Through your worship then, so I have a concern because the original motion was for 40,000. Now this new BER is saying it's actually 60. And that motion was, it was $40,000, not 60. We weren't talking about, I don't care whether you take the 20 from last year and add 20 from this year makes 40, but I don't think the original motion said that it was 40 plus 20.
Aaron, can you confirm that?
So going back to this line, in your budget package, you'll actually see that there was no money allocated in the parks, and we did not update this one As there's now $40,000 sitting there from last year that was not used. So it is at the 40,000 mark right now.
40,000 right now, so it would not require no new money. And that's what your budget reflects.
Correct.
Are we?
I think what we're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, Erin, is you're saying it's already in the, has been approved in the budgets and sitting in reserves?
It will be, the line item has not been moved internally yet. But if you look on page 70 under the Parks Capital Parks upgrade, there is $45,000 and not quite $5,000 was used in that line. So there's just over $40,000 to be used.
Sitting there.
Yes.
Thank you. Councilor O'Neill.
Sorry, I do have a question on, like I would say that 45, well, the number we're now discussing is 40,000 in the motion, but that 40,000 should be showing up even though we're taking that from reserves. That shows in the budget that we are approving the spending of 40,000 and that money will come from reserves because it was there already.
Go ahead.
So right now, none of the 2024 numbers are showing reserve amounts as no internal transfers have been made yet. So that's why it's not showing in the reserve line yet.
Councilor O'Neill.
But if we are going to spend money in 2025, should that not show as an expense for 2025?
That will come out of your approval of it because it hasn't been approved yet.
So once, if council decides to approve it, then it will show up as part of the expenses for 2025.
Correct.
Thank you. Councilor Willie.
So I'd like to make a motion that we allocate $40,000 from reserves for the fixing of the park benches this year. And you're telling me it's in reserves already. So it's not costing us a dime. It's whatever we didn't spend. So that 40,000 be allotted.
It's 40,000.
Yeah.
You can't make a motion, Greg, because
Okay.
we already got it on the floor.
Okay, so what's the motion on the floor?
Motion on the floor reads that the following motion, that $30,000 be allocated to the Ball Diamond Bleacher Project with an additional 10,000 contingency.
And who made that motion?
Mayor Stover and Councilor Mary Cap.
No, Ainsworth Stover.
Councilor Ainsworth and second by Deputy Mayor Stover. The council, enact this law, so $30,000 be allocated to the Ball Diamond Bleacher Project with an additional $10,000 contingency. So basically that's saying we'll take $10,000 out of reserves. Add on $30,000 out of taxpayers, I guess. For a total of $40,000. Is that correct?
No, because the money is already sitting there from 2024. So I would say to amend the current motion on the floor, just to point out that it will come from reserves from 2024.
Okay.
Through your worship, which makes sense. It's still the 40,000, but it's coming out of reserves instead of taking 30 and then adding 10 and everything else. Just take the $40,000 and that gives you exactly what you asked for.
But so then, if I may, Mayor Logal, so this 2025.
I'll second the amendment.
We can't do a second amendment until we get this first one on.
Well, he asked for an amendment and I'm seconding it so we can discuss it.
But I thought we were going to handle the first one first, you know?
No.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. So you don't need to amend it.
No, as long as just the way that you said it, Mr. Mayor, was we were gonna take $10,000 out of reserves and we were gonna put $30,000 into the budget, which seems kind of asinine. I think we're all looking at $40,000, and if the treasurer says there's $40,000 in reserve, however, Madam Clerk, is the easiest way to take the 40,000 out of reserve, and we're all happy.
You agree with that, Treasurer? Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Would I be correct in saying that, BER 2025-08 is now being removed? Because if we aren't going to the taxpayer for $40,000, that is all we're taking from last year. Would that be correct?
Good point.
We were finance lady. Yeah,
Sorry, what was the question?
go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Would BER 2025-08 be removed from the taxes that we're asking for the ratepayers? Because that 40,000 came in last year.
As it stands right now, if it's just the 40,000, then yes. If you went with additional funds, then we would have to take them out of 2025.
Deputy Mayor.
So then this gets me back to, Mr. Giles, you had said that you were looking at 60,000 for the two sets of bleachers, is that correct?
Or will 40,000 do the two sets?
Depends I think you should clarify, 2 diamonds or 2 sets? Because.
Well,
the
two diamonds.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's correct. 60 for diamonds 1 and 2. Without reviewing the numbers again, I don't know how much 40 would do.
So then it would be changing this 40 to 20, so he would have 60. Because 40 is already sitting there from last year.
That's correct. So if you changed it to the 60, we'd have to add 20,000 to the 2025 budget.
Thank you. Councilor O'Neill.
I think I'm through you to our deputy mayor. There's 2 ways. We can get it from levy or we can get it from reserves, but either way, it has to show in the budget. It'll just be a wash through in the budget where it's showing that from reserves, we're taking this amount and then we're spending this amount. But if we don't approve the spending of that money and approve this BER, then nothing happens because council hasn't approved spending any money then.
So it would be dropping it to 20 then. I'm just, that kind of makes sense to me that way, but could I ask our treasurer to get us through this? Or would you do that, Mayor Logal? Thank you.
Can you give us a hand on this?
Sure.
Please?
Through you, your mayor. So the 40,000 is already sitting there. We did not use the money from 2024. Jeremy has initially asked for $60,000. The additional 20,000 is not in the budget right now. It was an oversight when we were updating numbers. So if you go back to the original 40,000, the 40,000 is there, can be approved through the reserves once it gets put into the reserves. As the internal transfers for reserves from 2024 have not been initiated yet. So the money's there, it's just not showing in the actuals and that it's been put into the reserves. So with that being said, the 40,000 is there. You do need to approve the spending of it at $40,000 for the bleachers, which is the BER. If you wanted to do Diamond 1 and 2 and go with the $60,000, I would need an approval to put another $20,000 into the 2025 budget for this year.
Okay.
Clear as mud. Go ahead, Councilor. Yeah, Councilor.
For you, Mayor. I wonder at this point if we should maybe defer this again, just maybe to get some more information, because let's just say that you're putting in seating for 200 people versus 50. You know, would the 40,000 cover seating for 50 people at each diamond? You know what I mean? Because I know when I go to used to go to the ballparks and stuff, and when I go there, different things, you don't see many people sitting in the bleachers. Some of them bring their own seats, and some of the lawn chairs and whatever. So that would just be my concern. If instead of overkilling capacity for 100 people to sit on it, do we really need that? Maybe it might only be $20,000 if we say, oh, we're only going to have capacity for 30 people.
Mr. Giles, do you have any idea how many seats are supposed to be in the bleachers?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I don't know how many people. Sorry, your question was how many people
Yeah, how
on
many
a
people,
section of bleacher?
yeah, how many, the ones you plan to order, how many will that hold? Or Diamond 1 or Diamond 2 or both of them?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. What I can tell you is, the bleacher deployment design for the replacement pieces has been talked through with Bradford Minor Baseball and some of the user groups that frequent the ball diamonds.
Thank you. Councillor Booth.
So I would agree with through your worship, what Councillor Mike Ains was saying, and that's why it goes back to the point where I think if we allot him the $40,000 that we have and let him, if he only gets diamond number 1 done because it's 200 seats or 100 seats, then we know that we've put it in, we like it, and let's move forward instead of trying to do too many at once.
Thank you. So, did you make a motion? Did you first? And so what we're after here now is to approve the $30,000 in addition to the $10,000 that are there now. Okay. Right. So that's what it is. For a total of $40,000. Yes.
Okay, so the motion that's currently on the floor that was moved by Councillor Ainsworth and seconded by Deputy Mayor Stower is that the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Alnwick Calderman and acts as follows: that $30,000 be allocated to the Ball Diamond Bleacher Project with an additional $10,000 contingency.
Councillor Booth.
Through your worship, so to make it simpler, could we ask for an amendment on that 40,000 be taken out of reserves? Would that be acceptable?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, we could do an amendment that has to be moved and seconded to decide where that fund should be coming from.
So I'd make the motion that the original motion, which I liked it, just that it's amended that the 40,000 come out of reserves.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councillor O'Neill. Further discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. Get back to the original.
Mayor, can I ask for a 10-minute break?
Right, lunch, it's after 12.
Lunch.
Please go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Okay, so through Mr. Mayor, the amended motion now is that $30,000 be allocated to the Ball Diamond Bleacher Project with an additional $10,000 contingency, and that the $40,000 be taken from reserves. And that was originally moved by Councillor Ainsworth, seconded by Deputy Mayor Stover.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor? Motion's carried. Can you hold on for another 2 minutes or no? Get this one done and then we'll be finished this page. 2024-12-16. And this is for adding an additional $50,000 to facility budget, which has a levy impact of 5.8 or 0.58% increase. And is it on the phone? Or is it for reconsideration? That's just open to reconsideration if we want to do that.
And you could reconsider.
We can reconsider.
I would say.
No, we
That's gonna take
passed
a
the
while.
motion to do the facilities.
Yeah, Mayor. Mayor, can I suggest we take our lunch? Looks like it's gonna be a long one.
Just to clarify, this was something that we already approved, so if there's no one wanting to reconsider, we are actually done.
Why is it here?
Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
the only reason I say it might be a long one is because I have concerns just with how many assessments we got going on, maybe in the municipality, how much money it's gonna cost us. So I think this really needs to be talked about.
Let's go. Who's made a motion?
So I'd like to make a motion to recess first.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Councilor Booth, all in favor?
Yep.
We'll be back in 12:16 now. We'll be back in 12:55.
Yep.
Thank you. Is that the line? We've got the last one to do yet.